Boys and girls, today we are going to correct some of our answers from our summative yesterday. We're going to do a practice poem that I have up with some of the same questions that you had yesterday. Okay, so let's begin. This poem is called Fall, and it has, all I have is the first line here, and we're going to make a prediction. Now, what is a prediction? Right, a prediction is a guess of what we think is going to happen in the poem or what we think is going to happen next. So based on this, what do you predict this poem is going to be about? It says fall, I like the fall. Or what might they share with us in this poem? Yeah, they might tell us things that happen in the fall. They might tell us what we can do in the fall. All of those are great predictions. Have we read the poem yet? No, not yet, but we can make a prediction based on what we know. So here I started off the sentence, and we always write in a complete sentence. It says, I predict, let's write the poem will include things we can do in the fall. I think that's a great prediction because we haven't read it yet, but based on what they have shared with us, that could be something that they talk about, right? Let's read the poem to find out. Fall. I like the fall, the best of all, when leaves turn brown and tumble down. I like the fall, the best of all, when pumpkins grow round and cover the ground. Okay, so it didn't tell us things that we can do in the fall, but it told us things that we might see in the fall or things that happen in the fall. So was I right on my prediction? No, and that's okay, but it still was a very good prediction. Let's answer some questions about the poem. Number 2 says, read the lines from the poem. When leaves turn brown and tumble down. What element of poetry do these lines use? A, repetition, B, rhyme, C, alliteration. So repetition is when something happens over again. So when leaves turn brown and tumble down. Did you hear something repeating? No, I didn't either. Did you hear any rhyming words? Which ones? Yeah, I heard brown. What was the other one? Down. I heard rhyme. What about alliteration? I'm going to put a check here. Did we hear any alliteration where we hear the same sound, beginning sound at the beginning of words over again? I didn't either. So what would be the best answer? Rhyme. Very good. So make sure that you remember those poetry elements when you go back and correct your assessment. You should be very familiar with what repetition, rhyme, alliteration, and rhythm are because we've been talking about that a whole bunch. Number 3, you had a question like this. Read the line from the poem, and tumble down. What do you think tumble means? Now, tumble might mean different things. Whenever you hear that word tumble, you might be making a mental image of your mind of somebody tumbling or something tumbling. So when we read that in context in the poem, it says, when leaves turn brown and tumble down. What do you think that means? To turn, to fall, or to change? Tumble might mean to turn, but I think what they really mean is for it to what? Yeah, it's like they're falling down because that word down helps us to figure out that that's what tumbling means in that sentence. So fall could be the correct answer. What about change? And change down. Would that make sense in that sentence? Probably not. So in this sentence, tumble means to fall. Remember, you can always go back and substitute those words to figure out what that word means to help you, and use the words around it to help you as well. There was another question like this. Which lines in the poem fall rhyme, where you had to go back and number the lines to figure out which ones rhyme. So like this would be line 1, line 2, line 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's see what our choices are. Lines 2 and 4. Here's line 2 and here's line 4. The best of all and tumble down. Did you hear any rhyming words? No, I didn't either. Let's look at lines 1 and 2. I like the fall, the best of all. Ooh, I heard fall and all. Does that have rhyming words? Yeah, let's look at the last choice just to make sure. Line 6 and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The best of all when pumpkins grow round. Did that make any sense? No. So make sure to go back and read those lines to yourself to see if they rhyme. And always make sure that you're reading the right lines, and even go back and number them if you need to. Number 5, read the line from the poem. When pumpkins grow round. What stanza is this line in? Again, you had one of these questions where you had to go back and figure out the stanzas. So this is stanza 1 and this is stanza 2. We know that a stanza is a group of lines. So let's find what stanza this is in. When pumpkins grow round. Here it is right here. When pumpkins grow round. What stanza is that found in? 2. Always go back to check your work, even underline, number your stanzas if you need to. Our answer is C. Very good. Let's look at number 6. What is this poem mostly about? That means what is it talking about the entire time? Not just one time. Overall, what is it mostly about? Pumpkins, fall, or leaves? It talked about all of those, but over again, and even in the title, it keeps mentioning fall. I see it here, here, and here, and it tells us all the things that we can do in the fall. It doesn't tell us all about pumpkins or leaves. It does talk about it, but not the entire time. The right answer would be B. Number 7, read the line from the poem, when pumpkins grow round and cover the ground. What image might the reader see in their mind after reading this line? That's creating those mental images. Leaves falling? We might, but it's mainly talking about pumpkins and covering the ground. So probably not leaves falling. A field full of pumpkins? That could be right, because if we imagine a field full of pumpkins, they are obviously covering the ground. A pumpkin pie. It talks about pumpkins, but would this be about pumpkin pie? No. Make sure that you're picking the correct one and the one that makes sense. The answer is B. Why did the poet most likely write this poem? Here's one of those author's purpose questions. To inform you about Thanksgiving? Well, I know Thanksgiving is during the fall, but it didn't really tell us information about Thanksgiving. To describe fall, did they describe fall to you? Yeah, they told us some things that happen in the fall. To tell a story about leaves. Did they really tell you an entertaining story about leaves? They talked about leaves, but it wasn't really telling a story, was it? No. What is the correct answer? B. They were describing fall to us with all of those words and those describing words. Very good. 2 more questions. Number 9. In the first stanza, the poet said, when leaves turn, this is one of those questions where you have to go actually look in the stanza to find your answer. The poet said, when leaves turn, now let's go back to the first stanza right here. When leaves turn, oh, there's the answer right there. I had to go back and find it. What is the answer? Brown. Good, let's see if that's a choice. Down, round, brown. I found my answer and I went back in the text to find it. I have proof with text evidence. And number 10, which connection is the reader likely not to make from this poem? So pay attention to that word not. Which one of these would we not think about whenever we're reading this poem? A time they carved pumpkins? Well, I know that during the fall we would do that. So that is a connection that I could make. A time they went to the beach? Does that have anything to do with fall and pumpkins? Not at all. That has nothing to do with it. So I wouldn't make that connection. A time they played in leaves. Well, in the fall, I do play in leaves, and that is something that could happen in a connection that others could make. So which one is not a connection? Right, so make sure when you go back and correct yours, if you miss this question, pay attention to that word not. The correct answer is B. Very good. So again, what we did was we went over some of those same questions that you have. We talked about our stanzas, and we always go back in the text to find our answers. Think about what you're reading in those poetry elements, okay? Go ahead and correct your summative and make sure you try your best, okay? Great job today.